Last week, we did a view on the fourth form of lightsaber combat, Ataru, our first exploration of one of the more advanced lightsaber forms. Today, we'll be looking at another, Form 5, which had two variants, Xian and Gemso. Form 5, together with Form 4 and Form 3, was one of the most popular forms during the Clone Wars. It was the favorite of many famous Jedi, Ahsoka Tano, Plo Koon, and Anakin Skywalker among them. The form had a reputation for being aggressive and strength-focused, but the true philosophical underpinnings of Form 5 are far more complex. In this video, we're gonna dive right into them.
Attention, Sergeant on deck!
Xian, the primary discipline of Form 5, was developed concurrently with Ataru, likely sometime before the Great Hyperspace War of 5000 BBY. Forms 4 and 5 were similar in a number of ways, notably in their more aggressive tactics. Despite the aggression of the form, however, Xian was actually based on Surisu. While Ataru was a clear departure from the tactics and philosophy of Surisu, Xian was the work of Surisu masters who found the strictly defensive focus of Form 3 inefficient. To improve the form, they looked to Makashi, combining some of its more aggressive tactics with the defensive maneuvers of Form 3. The result was Form 5. In its most simplified form, the philosophy of Form 5 was that the best defense is a good offense. It drew on many of the basics of Surisu, especially the principles of centering oneself in the Force, maintaining constant momentum of the blade, and keeping careful balance, and used these principles to attack as well as defend. Indeed, Xian in particular allowed for offense and defense in tandem, encouraging its practitioners to reflect instead of deflect incoming blaster bolts and lightsaber blades, turning an enemy's attack back on them. Form 5's Xian discipline was intended for battles against blaster-wielding opponents, much like Surisu. It was highly effective against multiple opponents, and it could defend the user against incoming blaster bolts almost as effectively as Surisu. Unlike Surisu, however, Xian allowed its users to counterattack while simultaneously defending themselves. Instead of playing defense and waiting for the enemy to create an opening, Xian users created their own openings, attacking while redirecting incoming fire to keep the momentum of the battle in their favor. Gemso, the other discipline of Form 5, was made specifically for lightsaber duels, which Xian wasn't really suited for. Gemso operated on the same principles of Xian, but was even more aggressive, requiring the user to pour strength into their parries and counterattacks. Skilled Gemso practitioners could beat the blades of their enemies back toward them while mixing in heavy-handed attacks of their own. Even more so than with Xian, momentum was focal to Gemso. Practitioners of this form almost never let up, constantly on the offensive.
An aggressive technique, but it is powerful, effective. It can counter blaster weapons and add to the damage of your critical.
Form 5 was known as the Perseverance form or the Way of the Krayt Dragon, and those who faced it in combat knew those names were well deserved. No matter what, Form 5 practitioners just kept coming. Surrender was the only guarantee of safety from their lightsabers. The sheer momentum Form 5 generated usually made up for its only real weakness, its lack of mobility. It also made the form popular with many younger Jedi. Some of the Jedi Order's most headstrong members favored the form, from the infamous Qel-Droma to the Chosen One himself, and it's not hard to see why. Xian was distinguished by its constant, long, sweeping strikes, which were usually heavy-handed and amplified through the Force. Some Xian practitioners, such as Ahsoka Tano, held their lightsabers in reverse grip to make these sorts of strikes even more powerful, though this was rare and controversial in the Jedi Order. The broad strokes of Xian were meant to intercept and reflect incoming blaster bolts. With the help of the Force, Xian practitioners could plan their strikes to intercept multiple bolts with a single sweep, redirecting some or all back toward attackers. Particularly skilled Xian users could create a barrier of blades that reflected anything coming its way, or they could deflect incoming fire while simultaneously lunging at opponents. Gemso was a bit of a different beast, and to do it justice, we're going to turn to the Revenge of the Sith novelization. The first overhand chop of Skywalker's blade slid off Dooku's instinctive guard. The second bent Dooku's wrist. The third flash of blue forced Dooku's scarlet blade so far to the inside that his own lightsaber scorched his shoulder, and Dooku was forced to give ground. Skywalker came on, mechanically inexorable, impossibly powerful, a destroyer droid with a lightsaber. Each step a blow and each blow a step. Dooku backed away as fast as he dared. Skywalker stayed right on top of him. Dooku's breath went short and hard. He no longer tried to block Skywalker's strikes, but only to guide them slanting away. He could not meet Skywalker strength to strength. Gemso practitioners maintained a constant advance, mercilessly beating down on the guard of any opponent within reach. It employed similar motions to Xian, but Gemso's moves were much less broad and usually focused on a single opponent instead of a crowd. This focus often led Gemso practitioners to develop tunnel vision in combat, but it also made them devastatingly effective. Gemso was notorious for its ability to completely dismantle the careful pattern of Mokashi due to its focus and utilization of strength. One of Gemso's most iconic maneuvers exemplified the style pretty well. Falling Avalanche, an extraordinarily powerful overhand blow in which the duelist raised their saber over their head and brought it crashing down with all their might. This was devastatingly powerful, but fairly easy to sidestep, much like Gemso in general. Xian and Gemso were markedly different styles, but both were considered Form 5 because they shared the same fundamental combat philosophy: defense through offense. In this sense, Form 5 was very similar to the philosophy of the Jedi Guardians. The Guardians believed that passively defending the innocent was not enough, that true peace required the Jedi to actively battle evil, to seek it out and destroy it. Form 5 took this philosophy and individualized it. It prioritized defeating or destroying attackers over simply shrugging off their attacks, and practitioners of both Form 5 styles were encouraged to keep pressing the offensive until their attackers could no longer cause harm. This was acceptable within the scope of Jedi teachings, but it could be dangerous, much like Guardian philosophy itself. In a video last year, we talked about how Guardians fell to the dark side much more often than Jedi of other sects, in part because of Guardian ideology. Jedi Guardians were at risk of blurring the lines between justice and revenge and straying into ends justify the means territory, and Form 5 could lead its users to a similar way of thinking. The overwhelming force of Form 5, especially Gemso, made it very easy to kill, and Form 5 practitioners had to practice great restraint to avoid killing when it wasn't necessary. The form risked amplifying its users' anger, and as we all know, anger led Force sensitives down a very dark road. But with that said, Form 5 wasn't a dark side form or even a dark side adjacent form. The use of strength or aggressive tactics in combat could lead to the dark side, but they could also work within the framework of the light side. As we mentioned earlier, the only guarantee of safety against the devastating power of Form 5 was surrender, and that was essentially the whole purpose of the form. In completely dominating their opponents, Form 5 practitioners encouraged them to give up sooner than, say, Form 3 would. Ironically, it could put an end to a conflict more quickly and potentially more peacefully than the more defense-oriented forms. So that's our look at Xian and Gemso, the two styles of Form 5. But what do you think? Are you excited for us to look at Form 6 next week? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below and how you're enjoying the series. And as always guys, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in next week's video.